35?
Well, I think there are many aspects to it, but on the technology side, I think one of the big challenges is we have 300-400 million people who use smartphones, who use WhatsApp, who use UPI and all that. How do we take it to 1 billion people? And that's where the work done by Mitesh, etc. is very important, because that's about allowing 1 billion people to communicate with the computer in their own language to get work done. And I think therefore that's one clear thing, that the democratization of access will truly happen when the language thing is done. So that's one clear thing. The second thing is, I think, how can we finally crack the learning issue? I think as Roni wrote recently about the ASA report, after 2 decades, you're seeing some progress. But if we can accelerate that progress and more young Indians are educated, then it's a big deal. And that's what, like ALL and all that. So that's on the technology side. But I think the entrepreneurial explosion is just beginning. India went from 1,000 startups in 2016 to 150,000 startups today. And that's just going to keep growing. And then they will use a lot of this mass scale technology we have deployed in very, very interesting use cases. You saw that today. And then there's going to be a lot of capital coming in. So I think it's going to be a very exciting and interesting time, and India will lead on using all these technologies in a positive way.
You've often said that let other countries build bigger, better models, but India should become the use case capital for AI in the world. Tell us something more about it.
Well, I've always believed that models are a commodity, that and that's proving to be true, right? I mean, there are hundreds and hundreds of models getting built. And as we have seen with people like DeepSeek, they essentially demystified model building. I mean, last week they tweeted all their open source practices. So I think the knowledge to build models is getting rapidly commoditized. You of course need computing capability. You need most important, you need data. That's why the work we are doing here, what AI for Bharat is doing, if you can create very high quality data in Indian language and then share it with everyone, you'll accelerate by years the pace at which things get rolled out. So I think, but the hard part is uses. How to use this stuff to actually deliver value for people. And that's where we can lead. And then we can always replace the models. Will be a better model, just put that in.
And the example that we saw earlier, what was different was people are wrestling with the problem of how to integrate it into the use cases of people, how to solve for trust, how to do it responsibly. I think that's something that we're seeing over the last 1 year. Rohini, AI is transforming multiple domains. And what aspect of AI excites you most? You always cautioned us not to go overboard on technology, but there's something about AI that is exciting. And where do you see the greatest potential of AI for an equitable and inclusive future?
So living with Nandan makes you a tech optimist, okay? You don't have much of a choice. And so I've also caught that virus. So now I go around saying that this is something that we can really use to transform what people want to see in their lives. That this seems to me like if we do it right, if we do it with the right intent, and if we catch it at the right time, then I think we have the power to take the aspirations of 1 billion people and transform that into personal agency to unleash their own potential. And for me, the education work is critical. Especially we want to see through Bachpan Manao. We are not directly using AI yet, but we will, to see young children become confident self-learners in any language. The language won't matter anymore. In one language, they have to solidify their self-learning journey. That excites me a lot, and some of the work at AI for Bharat will enable that as well. The other thing that really is exciting me is the work on agriculture. Personally, most people say we have to shift out 300 million people from agriculture into manufacturing or services. I don't know when that will happen, but until it happens, we know that so many million people are still dependent on the land, the soil, the air, and the water. And that is changing very rapidly, as Jagdish just told us. If we can genuinely put easy to use information in the hands of farmers in their language at the right time and allow them to find real use from it, it will be like a phenomenal change, because climate change is going to do things that you and I won't be able to understand very easily how to respond to. If we have
The trio of DPI, open networks, and AI, when they come together, they complement each other and can result in exponential change. With some examples, could you elaborate on some of the work happening?
No, I think the example that JB talked about, open agri networks, is actually bringing all these three things together, right? We are using the open data built by AI for Bharat to make it accessible in every language. There'll be many other data sources on that network which will offer information, maybe weather data which is open. It could be so many things. So there's a data part is well clear. We will use AI to contextualize, to summarize, to make sense of this vast amount of overload of knowledge in a way that at a particular point for a particular person in their particular context, they know what to do. So you're making AI, in some sense, is going to harness all the knowledge, remove the complexity, and create consumable knowledge for people to use in the real world to solve a problem. And all this is done using an open network, because anybody can connect into this network. Anybody can connect a new information source into this network, or anybody can build a new application using this network to do some other function, which is what is happening. So I think in some sense, what we're doing is in OAN is an example of bringing all these things together. And this is how we see the public AI being built. So the template that we have here, where you're harnessing all the data, you're using open source information where possible, you're using a network architecture to bring them together, and you're using AI to simplify. While this is in agriculture, the same template or the same approach can be done in health, in any knowledge system that you want. So I think this is in fact the template of how we combine open data with AI, with networks, is right here.
And is this something unique to India?
Yeah, I don't think this is happening anywhere else. I mean, what's happening in the AI world is, one is people have been trying to build what are called as frontier models. And they're spending billions of dollars building the latest model, and they become more and more gigantic, more parameters, more tokens, all that stuff. But it's clearly that has hit declining returns. I mean, you can keep doing more of that, but it's not that they're going to get any better. But they're all typically kept within the four walls of a company, and therefore it's like a black box for the rest of us. Or I think in some sense what's happening in China is very interesting with DeepSeek. They've been not only have they shown that you can build models cheaper, faster, better, with less powerful chips, they've actually been very open about publishing the techniques that they've used. They've done the world a service. So that goes back to the commoditization. What we are doing is creating a collective approach where we are creating data which is open sourced, and many examples of that. We have a DPI history where we have learned how to think about population scale technology, how to make it frugal, how to make it useful, how to make it work in small transactions, how to have billions of transactions. We know all that stuff. So I think we will figure out how to build the inference and reasoning capability that you need for a billion people to use. I doubt if anybody else is thinking along these lines.
Rohini, while Nandan is talking about the trioca of DPI, AI, and open networks, you have for many years talked about the three pillars of society, Sarkar, Samaj, Bazaar, how they need to come together. In the world of AI, how do you see, is this something that is needed more? How could this happen? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's going to be very important that the balance of Samaj Sarkar Bazaar stays positive and good, and that we all realize that AI must serve Samaj. Who is Samaj? All of you are Samaj. Even if some of you are right now developing AI tools, you are first Samaj, isn't it? When you take off these lanyards and go home, you are first a human being and then a citizen. How can AI be imagined to serve you in that avatar of a human being and a citizen first, and then everything else? Samaj's role is to be the inspiration for AI models and the development of the technology. The role of Bazaar is to support tech entrepreneurs, some of the visionary people sitting here, especially the young people sitting here, with seed capital, with mentorship, with whatever they need, so that they can take their ideas to scale and serve Samaj better, the public interest better. And the role of the Sarkar obviously is to create the right policy so that we avoid some of the pitfalls that can come from using technology badly. It's a very important stewardship role of technology. But we can't do it without any of these, and we need all of them. But keep in mind, eventually you have to be able to serve Samaj through the technology.
In this context, I could tell you about a new word that Rohini created last week. And she was talking about how to find the balance between magic and logic. She created a new word called mojic. How do you balance magic and logic? Nandan, to go back to you, to deploy AI at population scale, we must obviously address affordability, data cost, localized data, efficient compute. What lessons from India's decade and a half journey of DPI can we draw to reapply?
No, I think what we learned from the DPI journey is designing for a population, especially a population of 1.4 billion people, is very different from designing for a business and enterprise. These are all small compared to that. And therefore, one is how do you architect everything so that it works flawlessly at a billion people scale is a very, it really, you have to have a lot of experience to, and a lot of iterations. I mean, today, 1.4 billion people, 1.3 odd billion people have Aadhaar. They use it 80 million times a day. They use it to open a bank account. They use it to get a mobile connection. All this is happening in very, very quickly. So something is happening behind the scenes to make that work in a way that you don't even feel the thing. Or similarly, today UPI is doing 17 billion transactions a month. That's 500 million transactions a day, 500 million transactions a day, with about 400 million users, with 50 million merchants. And if you go for a walk and buy a coconut on the street, you'll pay with UPI. And that's happening instantly. So to make that happen instantly is actually very complex at the back. So always our view has been that design for scale, design for billions of transactions, make it cheap to operate, and make it as flawless as possible so that it recedes into the background, and hide the complexity from the individual. So the individual should have a very simple interaction. Behind the scenes, there may be some very sophisticated technology working. The same thing applies to the AI world. How do we build something which a billion people can use? How do we make it super cheap? How do we reduce the cost of inference? Because AI involves inference. How do you reduce the cost of reasoning? So how do you get that? How do you make that thinking low cost, or free, and then apply it to various things? Is really what we have to do. And I don't see anyone. They think of doing it in the context of a firm, but in the context of a society, is a different ballgame.
So in this context, as Mitesh said, we've built a ramp. The next few years is a chance to kind of rocket forward. As X-Step Foundation, Nilekani Philanthropies, they have been funded over the last few years to achieve that. So, do you want to talk about your future plans?
Yeah, I think we took a decision together to support AI for Bharat 3-4 years back, and because of the extraordinary work that Mitesh is doing. So we will now extend that for 3 more years to get him to the ramp where he has to get. So Mitesh, you're all set. And I think it's a very good example of collaboration, because he's a professor at IIT Madras. It's a top-class institution. The MATI supports him on data collection. We support him on building the tools and the whole thing. So it's really, and then he has this whole network of people in society collecting data. So it's a good example of everyone coming together.
Congratulations, Mitesh. We're really looking forward to not just me, but the whole country. No pressure. The whole country.
I think Mitesh's work has reduced years from deployment of Indian language AI. Years. Because everybody takes his data. They don't give him credit. That's a different matter. People have, all kinds of companies have taken his data and claimed it as if they have done it. And he's a soft guy, so he doesn't crib about it. But I think everybody, whether it's big tech companies in the valley, whether it's startups, they all take his data without attribution. But all that, in a way, it's good, because it means what would have taken years will take months now.
Yeah, congratulations again, Mitesh. So, we're really looking forward to continuing the partnership with you to create the next set of the elevators, I guess, from the ramp. We earlier talked about the idea of people plus possibilities. And example of Mitesh and his team at AI for Bharat. It's what people like that, a small group of people, it can create possibilities for 1 billion. You've been a champion of the idea of people plus possibilities. At Step, we had something we used to informally call the theater of experiences. Now it's become a space, people plus possibilities. What happens when people and possibilities come together, from your experience?
I mean, one thing I've realized that social change takes 15 to 20 years to really cement. What it needs is patient capital. What it needs is dedicated moral leadership and commitment. What I'm hoping is that these technologies will speed up the thing. But for that to happen, these people have to feel a sense of inspiration, understand the potential of this technology and apply it to real life problems. What Mitesh is doing and the team is doing there, what I love most about it, it's really springing from people. Your model comes because you're fanning out and harvesting people's own knowledge of their language, the way they speak, their ancient culture embedded in their words, the structures of how they speak. All that is coming together to help people seamlessly talk across each other and use cases. Similarly, we need a lot more of that. We are going to need our people to be able to share how they think, what they do, what they know. People are not blank canvases in this country. They know a lot. We have a 5,000 long unbroken culture, whether it's in agriculture, whether it's in engineering, water solutions, you name it. If that can be harvested to use for AI models, I think that's when people will be part of creating their own possibilities.
Yeah. After we launched People Plus Possibilities, the space, there have been many extremely fruitful conversations there which triggered through possibilities, initiatives like OAN, initiatives like ALL, and many wonderful conversations. So what we've realized is then people coming to the space itself is a limitation. Can we create such virtual spaces? The second thing we're realizing is in AI, people need safe spaces to try out things. Just like the People Plus Possibility Center is a safe space where people can discuss fears, AI adopters need a digital space where they can try the technology, try the tool, see if it works for them. What else do they need? So, based on discussion with several partners, we're announcing the launch of something called a People Plus Possibilities as a virtual space, sectoral. So for example, in agriculture, we are tying up with partners like IBM, Google, Dhive, Protean to create sandboxes and digital toolboxes where people can come and try out stuff. They could be states, they could be not-for-profits, that could even be even startups to reduce their friction to trying out. So in agriculture and in jobs and employment, as I said, with Dhive, Protean, and Google, and also with partners like Quest. It's a very exciting development. Expect to hear more of it in the coming days and weeks, and we think it will amplify the efforts of all the community members, the efforts of all that we have, Sarkar, Samaj, Bazaar coming together, and to give us a leg up to Nandan's vision of AI becoming the use case capital of the world. So thank you to those who have joined hands with us to create this, and we're really excited about this in the next 1 year.
So it's a 21st century e-katte, like a new public sphere where people can come together to share and to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. So we have time for one question. But if anybody wants to ask, let's raise your hand.
But very quickly, let's ask you the question. What excites you the most, Shankar, in all this?
About AI?
See, I'm a journalist. I have to get the last question.
About AI?
No, about the work that we are doing with people and possibilities.
Yeah. When we started 10 years ago, we were hamstrung by several things. We wanted to do that, and we realized that AI was a problem, technology was a problem. But with the release of ChatGPT, we're entering the age of reasoning. And suddenly, a lot of our problems that we don't have enough doctors, enough trained teachers, so many other problems which are people-centric. In 10 to 20 years, I see reasoning as a commodity. So Jagdish's story of Lakshmi Bai, right? Machines can understand Lakshmi Bai's intent. They can understand her context. They can understand the soil conditions. And the best of advice, the best of diagnosis can come to her. Like the start of Aadhaar, we took the elevator to kind of transform India.
People+AI Mela and all that. The way we think of AI is, how does AI amplify human potential? For at least the way we think is, we don't think of AI as replacing people. And many people think of it like that, they'll have humanoid robots and whatnot. We think of AI as an amplifier. And if we know that every human being has potential, and if that potential can be amplified with AI, then they will all have much better lives. So that's why this whole People+AI is such an important thing for us.
Fantastic. Rohini?